January 25th, 2026. Hold that date in your head. January 25th, 2026. Do not let it go. Because on this date, a major metro says something that sounds impossible in a country built on paperwork. We can't lawfully serve the blacklist notice, not, we don't know where he is. We can't properly serve the legal notice in a way that holds up in court. Listen carefully. Tshwane's mayor, Dr. Nasiphi Moya, makes one distinction that changes everything.
What we will be announcing today is in essence a partnership to get the money and the expertise to upgrade Rooiwal, and to do so in a way that avoids the delays, the irregularities, the wastage of the past. We do so, again, in partnership.
She says there's a legal difference between knowing someone's general whereabouts and formally serving legal notice on the corporate entities in the tender process. That is the battlefield here. Do not half-watch this. If you care about corruption, public money, and how accountability dies in slow motion, you need every word. And before we start, hit like, subscribe. We will not stop digging. Now, I want you to do something. Picture a single envelope, a formal notice, a delivery attempt, and then the line that turns this into a bombshell. Service failed. And the reporting gets specific. It describes an attempt to deliver physically through the Tshwane Metro Police, TMPD. According to the city spokesperson, they also tried address confirmation through the central supplier database and other lawful mechanisms. Then a second attempt through registered mail via Postnet. And it still didn't land. That is the whole story, at street level. The City of Tshwane, Pretoria's Metro. The opposition pushing this hard is the DA, led in Tshwane by Cilliers Brink.
But of course, we also have to, in crafting this agreement, City Manager, we have to be very clear that in that agreement, we also want the DBSA's processes to be competitive, to be fair, to be transparent. We must make sure that the money of the people of Tshwane is spent effectively. So no state institution is above possible irregularity, and those contractual provisions are going to be very important. But with the available information, DBSA implementing agent is the best, quickest, most credible solution that we have to the problem. Obviously, we'll also...
The city tried to serve the blacklisting letters to Sodi's companies and directors, and it could not because, according to the city's explanation, the entities were untraceable at their registered locations. And then the opposition says, fine, if you cannot serve him, we will. Brink says the DA will appoint a tracing agent, locate Sodi, and hand the details to the city and National Treasury. You already feel the tension, right? Because this is not just admin delays. This is power, money, and a clock. And someone is winning time. Here is the timeline. Burn it into your head. 2019, the contract is awarded. July 2022, the contract is terminated. June 2023, Tshwane says it initiated blacklisting. 2024, Treasury rejects the submission for procedural shortcomings, according to the city's account. September 2025, a supply chain report records failed service attempts. January 25th, 2026, the DA says, fine, we will appoint a tracing agent. Now climb the evidence, step by step. First, the WhatsApp. You see the claim spreading, Tshwane can't find him. That's the shorthand online. The legal fight is about service, not whereabouts. But here's the detail that detonated this story. According to reporting, it took a newsroom one WhatsApp message to reach Sodi. And his reply was, write whatever you want to write. And you know what happens next. The comments do not ask, what went wrong? They ask, who is protecting who? That question is not a fact. It is an instinct. But instincts matter because they show you what the public no longer believes. Second, the public reaction. The reaction isn't polite. It's sarcasm. It's anger. It's people saying a newsroom could contact him with a message, so why can't a metro with lawyers and budgets do the same? That is not proof of any crime. But it is a pressure test.
We are tired of talking. We are tired of addressing the issue in the media. And we're going to now resort to other measures of getting the attention of government.
The City of Tshwane says it's working to fix the problem, including upgrading the Rooiwal Water Treatment Plant, which will ensure the residents have clean potable water for consumption. City authorities say they are still waiting to appoint a contractor to complete phase 1 of the 70% done at the plant by a previous contractor.
It forces the city to explain the difference between contact and service. And that difference is where the entire story hides. Now hear the promise. If you cannot serve him, we will help you serve him. Because that promise creates a deadline. Now watch the paper trail move. The city's spokesperson says Tshwane asked Treasury to blacklist in 2024. And Treasury rejected the submission due to procedural shortcomings, according to that account. They say the city then paused, built a formal SOP for restrictions, and set up a supplier review committee with approved terms of reference. Now the response. The city rejects the idea that it is dragging its feet on purpose. The mayor says the process slowed because of legal and procedural issues, not a lack of urgency. She also pushes back on the suggestion that the city was indifferent to delays. This is where you pause, because when an institution says procedure, it can mean two different things. It can mean we are being careful because this must survive court, or it can mean we are hiding inside complexity because complexity buys time. I cannot tell you which one is true, not as a fact, but I can show you why the procedure excuse is so powerful. They also say they went further. They say they sought an independent legal opinion on what counts as proper service when entities can't be located. And that opinion, according to the spokesperson, concluded the city did everything reasonably and lawfully possible to give notice under its SOP. Now, the simple explanation, blacklisting, also called debarment or restriction, is not a tweet. It is a formal process that can block a person or company from doing business with the state. And because it is so serious, the rules demand basic fairness. Notice, a chance to respond, a decision that can be defended later. Treasury's procurement rules allow organs of state to do it, and Treasury maintains the list. One common route looks like this. The organ of state gives notice and a chance to respond. After that, it submits the restriction to National Treasury for listing. So yes, the envelope matters, because if the notice was never properly served, the target can say, I never got a fair chance. Then the whole thing can be challenged. Then the restriction can collapse. And if it collapses, the city looks reckless. This is why service becomes a shield. Now let's go back to the detail that makes this story sting. The reporting says the Metro's Supply Chain Division had a document dated September 2025 describing attempts to serve letters that went nowhere because addresses could not be established. September 2025. That date matters because it tells you this problem did not appear yesterday. It has been sitting there, growing. Now I want you to hold another phrase in your head, almost 3 years. That is how long the reporting suggests this blacklisting push has been hanging in the air without landing. Almost 3 years. In real life, that's a lifetime. In procurement time, that's a whole business cycle. Which brings us to the motive, the money, and the mini forensic accounting segment. This is where you stop thinking like a viewer, and you start thinking like an accountant. Here's the core number tied to this story. Around R29 1000 zone to R29 2000 zone, depending on the report. A High Court judgment set aside the Rooiwal Wastewater Treatment Plant tender linked to a joint venture that included companies associated with Sodi, and the reporting says the city welcomed that ruling. According to reporting on the High Court ruling, the consortium was ordered to repay the profits made from the contract, with the court to determine the amount after expense submissions. That is not small money. And the project is not abstract. It's sewage. It's clean water. It's whether a community trusts the tap.
That the city is interested in. They're interested in tenders. They're interested in pushing whatever agendas that they are pushing. I mean, the administration of the DA in the city has been dismal. I mean, I'm the one of the things that we had to fight was the Kratos power deal. They have just been interested in ensuring that they sign tenders and don't care whether or not the work has been done. And that's the unfortunate situation that we find ourselves in the city. And hence I'm saying even politicians need to be probed and we need to go after them.
According to reporting, the failure to repair Rooiwal might have contributed to the mid-2023 cholera outbreak in the Pretoria area. The outbreak claimed nearly 30 lives, according to the report. Earlier reporting around the Rooiwal upgrade described a tender of about R295,000, linked to a joint venture including a company belonging to Sodi, and reporting says the work was not completed, the site was abandoned, and the contract was terminated in July 2022 after R14,700,000 had already been paid. Now, here is the accounting logic in plain language. If a project worth around R291,000 to R292,000 gets set aside, there are immediate incentives. One incentive is reputational. Suppliers do not want restricted next to their name. Another incentive is future revenue. Restriction threatens future contracts. And the third incentive is time. Every month of delay is one more month where nothing official blocks you from bidding elsewhere. This is why a slow process is not neutral. A slow process can be valuable, even if nobody is pulling strings, even if it's just the system being the system. Now you might be asking, but why would a city struggle to blacklist anyone? Here's a key piece of context. Debarment is underused and often messy, and watchdog groups have pointed out that companies linked to serious allegations can remain unlisted for long periods, even when there are active investigations. In this case, one watchdog report said Blackhead Consulting was being probed by the Special Investigating Unit over incomplete work at Rooiwal, and it described ongoing sewage problems feeding into water systems serving Hammanskraal. Again, I am not telling you anyone is guilty. I am telling you what has been reported and what the incentives look like. Now we zoom out. This is not only about one tender. There is reporting that claims huge public spending on dodgy water contracts, with figures like R41,000 AED paid out from an initial budget around R9,000 AED in a separate water contract story that also names Blackhead Consulting, and it notes broader SIU action and referrals. When numbers get that big, you do not need a movie villain. You only need opportunity. You only need weak controls. You only need delays. Now, let's address the part you are probably thinking about. Who is Edwin Sodi in the public record? He is a businessman frequently described as a controversial tenderpreneur. He is also an accused person in the Free State asbestos tender case, and reporting says he has pleaded not guilty. Not guilty. That matters. We do not turn allegations into facts, but the existence of the case changes the stakes of blacklisting conversations. Because if you are a city trying to act, you have to do it clean. If you are an opposition party trying to pressure the city, you frame every delay as suspicious. And if you are the public, you stop trusting everyone, which is exactly what you see happening here. Now, I want to show you why the DA's tracing agent move is so smart. Read what they are claiming, in simple terms. They say they will find Sodi, hand details to the city and National Treasury, and ask the city to publish the blacklisting notice online for transparency and to allow a response. That sounds procedural, almost boring, but it does something deadly. It removes the city's biggest shield. Because if the city's story is, "We could not serve," and the opposition hands them service details, the next excuse has to be different. And if the next excuse is different, the public will ask one question: why did it take an opposition tracing agent to do what the city could not? Now, to be fair, there is a real technical distinction here. A journalist can get a message to a person. A tracing agent can locate a person. But lawful service can require specific steps, proof, addresses, and sometimes sheriffs. That is why the city can say, we could contact, but we could not serve. So what do we do with that? We test it. We look for timestamps. We look for paper trails. We look for the chain of attempts. And we ask, how many tries? Which methods? Which addresses? Which returns? If those details exist, they should eventually show up in a clean explanation. Now I want you to see, this is not the first time this fight surfaced. Months earlier, EWN reported the city had sent a request to National Treasury to blacklist Sodi's company, and the DA argued he should already have been blacklisted by then. So today's drama is not random. It's a new spark on an old fuse. Now we hit the tension point, because this story is not really about a missing address. It is about what a missing address allows. It allows delay without saying the word delay. It allows everyone to point at process and never say choice. And that brings me to my most uncomfortable observation. Bureaucracy can be a weapon without anyone holding it. If your rules require service and service fails, accountability stalls. If accountability stalls, consequences stall. If consequences stall, the market learns a lesson. You can outlast the outrage. Now, here's what I will be watching next, and I want you watching it too. First, the tracing agent result. Do they actually produce a serviceable address? Do they produce proof? And how fast? Second, the city's next move. Once those details are in hand, what happens? Do we see a formal notice published? Do we see a timeline? Do we see confirmation that the file is with Treasury? Third, the language shift. If the city's explanation changes from "we can't serve" to something else, that shift is a clue. Because honest processes tend to tell the same story twice. Dishonest ones need new stories. Now we close on the big questions, and I want you to answer them in the comments. Question 1. If a media outlet can contact a person quickly and a city says it can't serve them, is this just the difference between message and legal service, or is it something deeper? Question 2. If the opposition can fund a tracing agent and deliver what the state could not, what does that say about capacity inside the metro? Is it incompetence, or is it a lack of will? Or is it a system designed to move slowly when powerful money is involved? Question 3, and this is the one that keeps me up. If debarment exists to protect the public, why does it so often arrive late after the money is gone? Who benefits from the delay, and who pays for it in water, health, and trust? Drop your theory in the comments. Inside job or just a broken system? And tell me what you want me to pull next. The paperwork trail, the timeline, or the money? Like, subscribe. Because until that envelope lands, we are not done digging.